Hi guys, welcome back to Archipath, and today we're going to be looking at my second year architecture project. So this project was called Collective Dwelling, and it was about creating a series of apartments that focus on community. And so the first important thing to start off with is site analysis. This can range from exploring the environment, any main attractions such as transport, looking at the general area around, if it's residential or industrial, and then making a note of any key areas or key views in the area, and then also analysing the site in terms of history, seeing if there's anything important such as if it had any maritime history with boats, or any history related to railways and trains, and make a note of that in case you want to use it in your design. And then the second page was analysing a previous proposal on the site, seeing what the company did well, and seeing if I could do a similar approach, such as they introduced quite a lot of green spaces such as trees, and also they did quite good analysis of the sun path and where best to place the apartment so that it doesn't overshadow the ones next to them. And then precedent studies is another very important page. So I was looking at different architecture projects that I liked that focus on modular construction, particularly timber, and that were really adaptable and sustainable in terms of how they were built. And then development is another key aspect, so literally just getting out a sketchbook and drawing your ideas, seeing what comes to mind, using those precedent studies as well to influence you. So here I started off with just exploring different shapes of the apartments, also different orientations, maybe splitting it off into two parts that with the connection between a walkway. And then to the right I was just exploring it in terms of sketch models. They're really rough, just trying to experiment with the shape and seeing how the shadow affects it as well. And then my floor plan, ground floor plan, really focused on that prefabrication and assembly, on making it more sustainable. So towards the front of the site, the north, it had more public areas such as retail shop, gym, sports hall, and towards the back, south of the site, it focused more on private areas for the residents such as community spaces, library and nursery for families. And then the first floor onwards really focused on studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, and I tried placing 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms together so that people could interact, and also making sure to really include those community areas. And then I included a series of diagrams really demonstrating the different roof types, really honing in on that modular construction type together with the timber frame. And then also, based on the precedent studies that I looked on earlier on, one of the influences was Warmer Yard, and what I really liked about that is the adjustable mechanism. So you can adjust it based on the sun, and it's a really sustainable approach rather than relying on more mechanical intensive systems. And then here I was more focusing on landscape, showing an aerial view, how I wanted to include walkable rooftop. And then to the right, just showing some views. So the first one, I wanted to show the view from a kayak, how they would see the building leading up to the site. Then 2, 3 is external views, one from the exterior view, rooftop garden, and one from the walkways. And then here I really zone in on the floor plans, showing the layouts, how I wanted to keep it quite open planned, especially for the studio where there's not a lot of space. And trying to use sustainable finishes such as timber. And then some common interior space such as a typical bedroom or typical living room that you might see. And then here I was focusing more on the community areas, so really analysing and demonstrating the floor plans, the cafe towards the left, and then more internal views. And then here I was just showing the elevations, showing how the building would look in context, as well as sections. And here I was just analysing and demonstrating the different cooling and heating strategies. So mainly I was trying to rely on passive, so natural systems such as just opening a window and letting the air flow, and particularly taking advantage of the river in terms of wind, and also how the roof helps in terms of heat gains and helping absorb some of that sun during the summer. And in terms of heating, we opted for a underground heating system and also a filtration system underground takes advantage of the grey water. And then here we're showing the future of the building, how it could be adapted for different uses such as 2023, 2024, really zoning in on that modular construction. And then to the right was some of my models where I was just showing that modular structure. And then here is a perspective view of how the building looks. And the main thing that I used to make this project is Rhino for 3D modelling, Photoshop for the perspective views and any rendering. For the site floor plans as well, I mainly use Photoshop, but I know some people prefer Illustrator.